David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have a retailer exclusive limited edition offering from Leonardo, available through the Chicago-based retailer Atlas Stationers, and it is called the Apex. It features a resin made from a prominent resin maker I've yet to previously feature on this channel. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this colorful offering, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. And stay tuned. During the size comparisons, I have a couple of pen-related items to share with you as well. Well, one pen-related item and another item I just thought was cool. Thanks go out to the good folks at Atlas Stationers for providing this pen for review. If you're not familiar with the Atlas Stationers, it is a family-run business based in the Chicago area. They have a real nice retail location as well as a website. I like how the picture of them here off of Google Maps captures their annual sidewalk sale. If you are ever in the Chicago area, the store is well worth a visit. The pen arrives in this somewhat standard Leonardo box. Let me get this out of here. Right here. They've actually recently updated their box, but it wasn't a drastic change. Inside there is a use and care guide, and then we have the pen. This is the Leonardo Momento Zero Apex. The pen is made from a resin created by Bob Dupress, who is based out of Little Rock, Arkansas. He has been a prominent resin maker for many years. You can find Bob on Instagram under the name Coral Creations, spelled C-O-R-R-L, because those are the initials of his grandkids. The resin he created for this offering is a nice blend of blue and green hues, accented by vivid splashes of pink and red and yellow. There's a fair amount of pearlescence in this material as well, but not so much that it comes across as a bit extra. Let's start by taking a look at the top of the cap. It comes to a rounded coned point. After that, we have the standard Leonardo clip. I always thought it was interesting that from what I have seen, Leonardo clips only come in one size, so regardless of whether you have one of the larger or smaller models, the clips are the same. The cap angles up until it straightens out over the last inch or so. On the back side of the cap, it is engraved with Leonardo, Atlas, and the limited edition number of this pen. This is a limited edition of 150 units. I do like how this engraving is filled in silver. It helps it stand out a little bit, as opposed to if it was just not filled at all. Below that engraving, we have the cap band, which consists of 3 thin rings. There is a small step down from the cap to the barrel, which begins with another thin band. The barrel is straight for about 1.5 inches before tapering down at the end at an even rate of decline to the blind cap. At the end of the blind cap, like the top of the cap, it comes to a rounded coned point. Speaking of the blind cap, you can remove it and gain access to the converter, so you can fill this pen without needing to remove the section from the barrel. Personally, this isn't a feature I typically use on the Momento Zero model for a couple of reasons. First of all, the converter doesn't protrude a great deal back here. I don't have the pudgiest of fingers, but I do have a bit of difficulty maintaining a good grip on the knob when twisting it. The second reason is that I like to be able to see the converter when filling the pen, so I can make sure that I'm getting a sufficient amount of ink in there. This pen accepts standard international cartridges, and a Leonardo branded curtain converter is included. With the metal section, as well as the blind cap here, eyedropping this pen would not be recommended. The cap does twist off with a single rotation, and underneath we have a number 6 stainless steel nib. Leonardo calls this their La Fenice nib, which means the phoenix in Italian. La Fenice is not a specialty grind, just what they call their nibs. I've always cared for the stamping on Leonardo nibs. I like the wings, and the overall design is rather sharp, in my opinion. The nib on this pen is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, a stub, as well as elastic fine and elastic extra fine. And here's a look at the plastic feed. This pen utilizes what I describe as Leonardo's ergonomic section, which begins straight and then angles up until you reach the cap threads and a step up to the remainder of the barrel. For me, this section really fits my grip style well. And even though there is no flare or raised edge, I feel my grip is really secure and not going anywhere. The pen is plenty long enough to use unposted. The cap does post, not overly deep, but it is secure. It's light enough that I don't feel like backweights the pen or throws off the balance. And it doesn't add an inordinate amount of length to the pen, rendering it unwieldy. Overall, the Momento Zero is just one of my favorite pen models. I own several of them, and I have even partnered with Leonardo to produce a few limited editions of my own. It's just a real solid pen design, and it performs nicely as well. I mentioned this up top, but this Apex model is available exclusively through Atlas Stationers and retails for $250. In general, standard Momento Zero models retail for around $170, and the limited editions, especially the retailer exclusives, tend to retail for a bit more. But I do feel the $250 is on the higher end of the value proposition for this particular model. Thanks again to Atlas Stationers for providing this pen for review. I'll put a link in the notes below where you can check this pen out on their website, as well as a plethora of other Leonardo models they carry. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample, and then a look at a couple of other unique little items as well. So here we have some size comparisons for the Leonardo Momento Zero Apex. I want to give you another closer look at that material. I just think it's a nice combination of blues and whites and greens and reds. I just think it's an interesting combination there, even on the section. And this is one of those pens that every resin every pen is going to be different, just because this resin has so much variation to it. But in regard to some size comparisons with some other Visconti models, this is what it looks like with the Fiore model. And then here is this is a Momento Zero 2.0 Grande, and then this is a Momento Zero Grande. This one is the Carolina Midnight, which was one of my collaborations with Leonardo, and that's what it looks like in comparison. In regard to some non-Leonardo pens, we had an Aurora Optima, and then here we have a Sailor Pro Gear 2. This is the 2, which wasn't very popular, but you could tell the 2 because it has a different clip here, kind of a cartoonish anchor on the clip. And then finally, here we have a Pilot Vanishing Point. In regard to uncapped comparisons, here it is with that Momento Zero Grande, and then here it is with the Aurora Optima, and finally, this is the Leonardo Fiore. I mentioned I had a couple of additional items to share with you. You might have guessed from the thumbnail, but one is this crab from Copperist, which is a pen holder. And you can set it in there just like that. Now, I know this is a little bit odd the way that it's sitting here, but it is actually, the detail on this crab is interesting. First of all, his eyes move, which I thought were interesting. And just the overall detail, I've been impressed by the detail from Copperist on each of the items that they have sent along to me. Even the details in the claw. Now, I will say that the claw is a little bit on the sharp side. So if you have a pen that's like sitting on top of the claws, then I don't know. I don't know if how comfortable I would feel with one sitting on top. But I will say that the inside is a little bit rounded, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. So something like this is kind of more on the inside, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with. But if it was something that was larger and purely sat on the top, then I might be concerned with that. But overall, that I don't use a lot of pen stands, but I will say that this one is kind of cool and unique, and that they do a very good job of representing a crab. And the other item that I had them send along, just because I thought it was the cutest thing, is this cuttlefish. It is a keychain. You could also get it as a necklace, but the unique thing about this cuttlefish is that you can decapitate it, and then it has a little knife in here that you could use to cut open boxes. It's not the sharpest of knives, but it's going to do the job to open up tape and things like that. But I thought it was an interesting way to have something on your keychain that could be used for that kind of thing. Now, I don't know if you tried to get this through TSA security, if they would consider that to be a knife, or if they would cause you any hassles with that. I'm not sure. But I just thought, again, that they do a good job of representing the animals that they do in copper. And so I'll put a link to the Copperist website for both of these items in the notes below. Here we go with the writing sample for the Leonardo Momento Zero Apex. This is a broad stainless steel nib, and the ink I'm using is one of my favorite inks, which happens to be from Leonardo, which is Leonardo Smeraldo, which means emerald in Italian. This is what the ink looks like. I just think it's a nice coppery green. It looks very similar to Stilo & Stile's Roman Bronze Oxidation, which is another one of my favorite inks. And then this is what it looks like with Robert Oster's Sooty Shearwater. And this is what the Leonardo ink bottles look like. Yeah, the Smeraldo, I think it's a little bit darker than what it shows on here, but overall, I'm very pleased with their inks. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. Am I going to fit? We'll put it down here. That I do find this broad nib to be very pleasant. It's decently smooth with just a hair of feedback. There's not a lot of line variation you're getting out of this nib. It is a bit on the firm side, but it is very pleasant. I'd say the ink flow is very generous for this particular nib. And in regard to reverse writing, oh, it's fairly smooth. I have some pens that aren't that smooth writing the standard way. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. So there we have the Leonardo Momento Zero Apex. As I mentioned, this is an exclusive offering through Atlas Stationers. I'll put a link in the notes below where you can check this out on their site. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.